Okay, so here's what I want to tell you about golf. Everything that you've ever heard about golf from a good instructor, from a good book, is all true. Hogan said it all perfectly, maybe Bobby Jones, but certainly Hogan in the 50s, that it's just a chain of events that starts from the ground up: feet, knees, legs, hips, torso, shoulders, arms, and hands. Um, it's the getting it all to work like that is where people get into trouble. Mostly the early instruction like that got everybody to slice. Most people slice when they first start. It's quite natural just to turn into the shot, like you do with other things in life. And with a baseball bat, though, you hit the ball anywhere on the bat, it goes. With a golf club, you got these awkward heads down the end that have to be lined up just right. So what tended to happen then was you turn through the shot quite naturally, good physical strength in that kind of movement, but you end up making a glancing blow, weak slice. And then guys start all kinds of compensations from there, where actually they're closest to where they need to be when they first started and they had that slice. They're closer than they thought. They're just spinning out, or not, I don't want to think about it really that way, but just throwing the club out and cutting across it, where as if they had that same great body movement that they had, but they allowed their arms and hands to relax and drop as they rotated through, then they'd be hitting these great shots. But it's, to me, I've always thought it's the throwing of the hands, which is quite a natural thing, is what causes all the trouble. And that starts happening, and they start trying to close the club head down, which you don't do with a bat. Nobody gets into that with a baseball bat, but you start trying to spin that club head down, so then you get into all these compensations, with your hands, and then 9 times out of 10 they lose that whole initial strong body movement. So, when you were a kid, when you were a baby, it's actually even before you were a baby, maybe 10 years before you were a baby, back when I was young, when I was a kid, we had persimmon wood drivers, 6 screws on the front, Cyclolite, I think, insert is what they called it, in the persimmon block. They seemed so big to us then, but they were actually really short heads and really small block, but yeah, it did seem big at the time. And then steel shafts, no composite shafts at that point. And there was no way to drop in and hit down on the ball with that type of club. And there was also no way to hit a driver low and hit it with any distance. The only way that you were actually going to get distance on a drive, and back then, 260, 270 was monster. It was monster for a tour player. And the only way to do that was to get the ball high. And you can go back to before that to hickory shafts, Bobby Jones days and all that stuff in the 20s. And the modern swing would never work with a hickory shaft. And the modern swing wouldn't even work with the persimmon woods that Hogan and Nicklaus and everybody was hitting. You definitely got to where you wanted to hit the ball up. Most amateurs, that was their whole thing, and all the clubs came out to try to help you, even back then in the 70s and 80s, improvement clubs, because everybody hit it low, and with the equipment then, you hit the ball low, it wasn't going anywhere, no distance. So then fast forward, we get all the modern equipment, and we got the modern swing, and even, the pro swings were even better before, more like what you would want to achieve now, even with the more difficult equipment. And the amateur swings are still bad today, so a lot of things have really actually stayed consistent. But with you as a kid, I knew a little, and there's a video of you at 4 and you're taking and hitting down on the ball, body's not moving, sitting down with your hands, and I'm sitting there saying, hey, let's swing the club around ourselves, swing it around. And that's it's funny. I heard I was at the driving range in like 1984 or something with John Jacobs. He was the head pro at La Costa, and he was a former PGA player. And I asked him what the number one thing was about the golf swing, the number one key, and he said to swing the club around yourself. And then he was on the Golf Channel maybe 20 years later as a commentator, and they said, "What's the number one thing in the swing?" And he said, "Well, I used to tell people to swing around themselves, and now I know that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do." So that's great. But everything did transition, although a good swing was always a good swing. But I told you when you were a kid and got you doing it is to swing around yourself, and I got you to have a good posture, take a decent backswing, and try to swing the club around yourself. And so what I was telling you on the phone was there's a lot of good stuff about that already that you already have. So you already have a posture that you don't have to change. You have a backswing you don't have to change, and you actually have an initiation of a downswing that you have to change. The difference between your swing and like Mike Burns' swing, like I tried to groom him all these years, but never was effective at it, was he tends to sit back on his heels, and then at this point, which really hurts, and at this point hurts his swing. At this point, he never gets that kind of drop in like you do, he's always with the elbow arm detachment at the top, and then it's a scoop real outside in, and he hits a straight pull, very weak, very short. You played with him, but he had very strong hands, and it's a good thing because that's all he's got is a little hand movement through there. But you're in a different situation where you have the backswing and the posture, which he doesn't have the posture, and then you have the downswing initiation. And at this point is where you get into trouble with that crossing of the hands and arms, right shoulder back, flip. But you don't have to revamp your whole swing. But the problem happens, and it's why Hank Haney, who I always thought was the greatest in the 80s, thought he was the greatest coach of all time. The 90s thought he was the greatest coach until he started doing his show, which wasn't successful. And he took all these guys, a lot of them great athletes, like Charles Barkley and Sugar Ray Leonard. And Ray Romano's not an athlete, but was not able to change them at all. But they're all long-time golfers. So, hard to say unless I talked to him in person. On the show, he certainly failed to realize that maybe, in person he's done it so long, maybe he knows. But is what to me is something that I always talk about, is if you take a guy who's taken and got any position, let's pick on Mike again, and he's here, he's back on his heels, he throws the club out, he scoops it through without really turning anything. I got the videos of him. His hips actually come forward. It's goat humping. His hips come forward. His body's very bunched up with no power, and he's coming way outside in, but then controlling it, the club head. He's really closing down the club head with his right hand like this to get the ball to go straight left, but at least he makes contact and hits a straight shot. So, and his feet are pretty planted, all this kind of bad stuff's going on. Well, if you tell him what to do, if Hank Haney tells him what to do, or greatest in the world tells him what to do, or whatever, and says, do these changes, Mike has now for 40 some odd years, 44 years or something, he, in the blink of an eye, a swing takes a second, in the blink of an eye, he sees this and experiences hip forward, flip the club, turn the hand down, cut across it with a very weak feeling, but see this straight shot. It's real high, it doesn't go very far, but if you're 60 yards out, you take a wedge and you hit that shot, and you know where it's going to go and all that stuff. But this is what he sees, and in the 1 second it takes to swing, I think it's a second to swing back and down. The whole thing takes a second. He has got 40 years of doing this. His body knows the positions he makes impact. And what I say is his eyes see this. So his eyes see that as impact. He knows that makes impact. So here he is, goat humped, not turned forward, outside in, shutting his hand down, impact. So if you're here, but you need to actually be here, I mean, it's so miles from where you were and you're so used to being there, you can tell yourself to do it. He knows to do it. But how in that half a second are you going to get your subconscious mind to understand that it's okay to be here, that you will make ball contact if you are here, and then get your eyes also to be okay with, they know this will make an impact. Your eyes sitting there in that brief portion of a second to think that that would make impact, you know, nothing's ready for that, you know, and to retrain your mind that that's okay is the toughest part. So that's where I think Haney fell short with all these guys, and something that has to be understood. And you've played golf for now a long time, actually, at your age, but you're not as bad off as us, because we're really old. But back to you, so your posture is good, your backswing is good, the start of your downswing is good, there's not much throw. So it's faster and more throwy than I'd want, but it's pretty much in control, even better than Peters and a lot of people now. At this point is where you have to start working to understand that, you know, we've talked about that I want you to open your shoulders, I want you to turn through everything to the target, you know that, and you know that you'd like to have your hands ahead of the club head at the ball in relation to the target. You know those things, but you got to understand that it really is, everybody, all the good swingers, professional good swingers, all are in this position. They've hit the ball, and just after the ball, they're here. You're not even, don't even resemble that. So you got to understand that that's true. You got to get that sensation. And what I like to think about is just the sensation that the club is sitting here, the target is over there, you're here, and everything's here for you, because that's the way I taught you. Everything's here, everything's behind the ball, I'm here, but it really needs to be there, momentum to the target. And this club, instead of being out there, you really need to think about this club being sideways, 45 across you, and in front of you. And this is where you're actually presenting the club to the target. You can see that angle, and it's in front of me. So there's totally opposite of a mic, or even you, and stuff, where it's here, it's here, it's here. The club's over here, and your body's over here. It's not that at all. The club's way back over here, and your body is way over there, without the club. So that to go to the range now and sit there, get your posture, take your backswing, start your downswing, but then your only swing thought is to present the club this way to the target. You're turning towards the target and you're presenting the club to the target this way. You're not throwing the club over here at all. You're just presenting the club to the target here. So there's your swing. It's no change. No change, that I'm just presenting the club in this posture, in this position. Going, here you go, target, here's your club, and that's going to get the ball to go properly to the target. Along the way, some of the stuff that can help is an earlier step method, which is to present the club to the ball in this position. So that's your swing is done. You're got your normal address, got your normal backswing, normal start of your downswing, and then you present the club to the ball in this position, and you're done. Your swing is done. You don't think about it. You turn through, hitting your hands, hitting your arms, swinging your hands or arms or anything. Everybody I've worked with, which is usually a little bit better players that do it, but has loved that. But that's just the start. From there, you can actually get better and then still go like that. You know, so ultimately, you're going to present the club to the target, not the ball, here. And all the pros are here. And it feels very bizarre to be there, and it's very bizarre to try to get there. And your mind is not going to like the look. Your body's not going to like the feel. And it's not where you're used to making an impact. And you're always going to try to go back to where you're used to making an impact. You know, and that's what's tough. That's what's hard to overcome. So, what are the other keys there might be to get you there? Oh yeah, the last key that I want to talk about is the big fatal flaw with the swinging around yourself, and the way that most people do things is clubs going around me here, clubs going around me here. That's absolutely not the way you want to ever do or think about it from now on. Clubs in front of my chest, clubs in front of my chest, clubs in front of my chest, clubs in front of my chest. Club is never past my chest. It doesn't go past my chest on the way back. My chest goes with it. You know, they're connected. Club doesn't go past my chest on the way down. It should be no more than in front of my chest. And then the follow through, club definitely not around. As I'm coming through, which, you know, we've got videos of you like I used to. Now I've really changed the last 15 years of trying, but where your shoulders here and your club's all the way through. It's actually more like this. And I used to be like this too. I actually could be closed. I got videos where I'm actually closed and hitting the ball with closed shoulders. But yeah, yours are slightly closed. I think in the videos we took of you to square it up. But see, if the club's in front of my chest, I can only be here. So if my club's over here, my chest has to be here. So, huge thing, which is just keep the club in front of your chest. But for now, you know, you might start with first step of presenting the club to the ball as such. So the ball's here, your hands are ahead of the ball, the club's parallel with the ground, not down at all. Swings over, you just relax, it'll rotate through. And then the best thing, get to step 2, which is just drop down in and present the club to the target in this position. You're just going to present the club to the target. The only way to do that is for you to have turned through to the target. That's all I got for you.